New York Fashion Week is officially underway. Coach kicked things off Thursday at the New York Public Library with a show highlighting its 2024 spring and summer collection. The brand also celebrated its creative director's 10th anniversary. But the ready-to-wear fashion show was interrupted when a group of protesters crashed it. The protesters included animal rights advocates. So for more on Fashion Week, I'm joined by Vanessa Friedman. She is the fashion director and chief fashion critic for the New York Times. And when you walked in, I was like, oh, everything about what you're doing right now, I love. And I'm not even really a fashion-y person. But I think it's kind of interesting because you look very comfortable, but very like fashion forward. And I feel like that's where we are right now in fashion. I was kind of curious, we all spent a couple of years locked down. A lot of industries were impacted by the pandemic, fashion for sure. What are things like now for New York Fashion Week? Is it kind of echoes of the pandemic, or are we right back to where we were before?
We are absolutely right back to where we were before. In fact, we're like back to bigger than we were before, which is funny because during lockdown, there was so much discussion and so much like hand-wringing and angsty existential questions about will the system change? Is this kind of nature saying you've got to like stop and slow down and like rejig? It's not sustainable in any way. And as soon as sort of everything lifted, boom, right back. To the extent that like Ralph Lauren, who hasn't even shown in New York in about 4 years, is now having a big event tonight.
Interesting. So, to that point, I sit here at this desk every day and we talk about some of these, larger factors impacting our world. Climate change. And during the pandemic, we talked about how everyone, wanted to wear sweatpants day and night, and maybe we would be like that forever. I wonder if some of these bigger themes, sustainability, are we seeing designers more and more sort of be impacted by the conversations that are happening outside of the design room?
Designers are always impacted by that conversation, right? Because designers' job is to effectively take those forces, cultural, political, social, and give them expression in clothing, right? To help us kind of situate ourselves in the middle of them. And certainly when it comes to sustainability and climate change, they are talking about it, particularly in terms of manufacturing, supply chain, production. So you don't see as much of that necessarily on the runway. You don't see a garment and be like, oh, I can tell, like that is totally biodegradable. But they are certainly thinking about it. Whether they're thinking about it enough to actually make a difference, I think is a different question.
Another big kind of conversation that we've been grappling with in this country is the question of inclusivity. We've seen these kind of culture wars where some of the gains that have been made are being kind of clawed back. What's happening in the fashion world?
Certainly when it comes to the runway, I think real change has happened. Runways are meaningfully diverse and permanently diverse. I think,
I like that you said meaningfully diverse. Like it's not sort of acting it out. So
it's not acting it out. It's not your token, one model who is on every single runway.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to race. I think, you're really seeing the kind of mosaic of the world expressed on the runway as it should be, and it's great looking. When it comes to other issues around inclusivity, like size and age and physical ability, we have a long way to go still.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about some of the light and fluffy things about New York Fashion Week. We often see a lot of celebrities. How hard is it to get those front row seat tickets?
For a celebrity, I don't think it's very hard at all. And in fact, I think we're going to see a lot more celebrities this season maybe than we have even in the past because of the actors' strike. Right? Because they have time. And Fashion Week and that moment in the front row and all the paparazzi associated with it is one of the few options really for them to keep their names and their profiles kind of in the social media sphere.
Yeah, you make a great point. I mean, there are very few red carpet appearances now. And so how else are you going to at least keep your brand front of mind, even if you can't promote your movie?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So who can we expect to see? I guess there could be anybody,
at Coach
right?
we saw Jennifer Lopez,
the
Lil
usuals.
Nas X, Camila Mendes, and I think you're going to see the whole panoply of like influencer, celebrity, industrial complex.
I got to ask you about this because I find the story of Victoria's Secret and its evolution very, very fascinating. They held an event on Wednesday. What was that about? What did it look like?
It was to introduce the new version of the show.
Haven't they had several new versions? Well,
they've had rebrandings, but they haven't touched the show, right? They rebranded the Angels. They became the VS Collective. They did new advertising campaigns, but they haven't had a show since 2018.
Okay.
And this was not actually a runway show, although it was kind of billed as a show. It's going to be a movie. It's an hour and a half documentary / fashion show. It's filmed in 5 different cities around the world with 20 or more different kinds of artists participating, whether Colombian, African, British, Japanese, and the goal is to elevate women.
So, you're giggling a little.
Women, all women.
Okay. I know that they've been really struggling to kind of, have us all forget the fashion show the way it was before. The way you're giggling tells me I don't know if they nailed it, but we can't talk about that now. Maybe we can talk about it another time. Vanessa Friedman, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.